You're watching Round Roanoke, your source for what's happening in the Valley. I'm your host, Margaret-Hunter Wade. Next up, it's a unique blend of food, culture, architecture, and history, the perfect recipe for a delicious Blue Ridge afternoon. It's quickly becoming a Roanoke must-do, and here to tell us more is Larry Landolt of Roanoke Food Tours. Thanks for being here.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, Margaret.
This is cool stuff. I'm
excited
this is a lot of
fun. This is a lot of fun. People are really enjoying it.
And I am too. What is it? What is a food tour?
What is that stuff? What is that food tour thing? Well, the food tour is it's a walking tour. First of all,
okay.
It takes place downtown, kind of where the hub of the food scene is here in our city, and it's a walking food tour. We stop at 7 different restaurants and eateries, kind of iconic,
Sure.
one of a kind, sometimes even off the beaten path eateries, and then we talk about the history of Roanoke, its architecture, its culture, and we kind of weave that into one fun 3-hour tour experience.
So you tell a story along the way.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I tell you, the history of our food, the history of our city, actually weaves together really nicely into a little, kind of flows into a nice story. So
curious now. You're making me
I
want
know
to come
you're going to have
this.
to come. Absolutely, yeah.
So, and the other thing that would encourage me to come is there actual eating along the way.
Oh yeah. That's we start out the tour with a brief introduction, and we have 3 goals. One is that you have a good time. And so far so good with that. And second, that you learn a lot about the food scene, a lot about the folks who, the artisans, the food artisans who prepare the food, their backgrounds, the food itself, and our city. And then the last one, it is a food tour after all, so you have to be pleasantly full by the end of the tour.
Very
so we've done, and nobody's had any complaints about that, I can assure you.
Excellent. Well, it sounds great. So you mentioned 7 locations, but can you tell me more about which locations folks are stopping at?
No, absolutely not. The interview's over. No, yeah, absolutely I can. You can find that out on the website as well. We start at the Hotel Roanoke, which of course is you can't have a food tour or even a history cultural tour without starting at the Hotel Roanoke.
Sure.
And we do iconic food there. Then we go to Cedar's Lebanese restaurant for some great ethnic food. And of course, the story of the Lebanese and the Mediterranean countries, that they're immigrants from these countries in the early 1900s into Roanoke, is just really one of the gems that we found out as we did some research. Then we go to Billy's and Breadcraft. When we go into the kitchen, people love going into the kitchen at Breadcraft, and then we go to Texas Tavern. I mean, come on,
Of course.
And Little Green Hive at 16 West Marketplace,
Sure,
and then we end up on the market at On the Rise Bakery. So,
excellent.
And through that, we stop at various other places and we talk about some of the things that are going on, and people are really stunned about the vibrancy and the things going on in Roanoke, and that's kind of part of that. We feel like we're ambassadors to Roanoke, and people who have lived here their whole lives say, I never knew that, or I never knew that. And but we're doing, working a lot with visitors and tourists to the city. Yeah,
absolutely. And that you kind of hit on it. It is tourists that are joining you, but hey, I'm a Roanoker, and I feel like there's a lot of information in there that I don't know and would be really cool to learn. So who are you seeing come on these?
Well, I'd say right now it's been about a 50-50 split, but I suspect that as time goes on, we'll see more and more out-of-town guests coming on the tour. I think folks locally were interested in what this new idea was and this new tour was, and it's always kind of interesting because folks who are take the tour when we do our introduction and they introduce themselves, they always say, I'm born and raised in Roanoke, and they always have that look on their face like, you can't tell me anything I don't know about my city, right? And before we leave the hotel, we've shared with them about 2 or 3 things they probably didn't know. So
right, which is great, and it's great that you've come up with this really cool idea for them to learn a little bit more about the area. So quickly, just the idea for this came from where?
Well, it's a long story, and I won't tell the whole story, but it just came from this idea of that Roanoke has so much to offer, and our food scene is exploding and just world class in so many ways. And there was how could we show this off? And so this idea, in doing some research, I came across these food tours, and I had no idea what they were. And then we actually trained in food tour school, if you will, in Chicago, and we took some food tours in Chicago, and that's where the idea came from. Somewhere between a Chicago-style hot dog and a deep dish Chicago pizza. We
Nice.
said Roanoke could do this.
Well, it sounds like a great idea, and it's doing well. So we're about to wrap up, but where can our viewers get more information? I know they just take place on Saturdays right now.
In January, February, it's just in the winter, it's just Saturdays, but then we'll expand, and we hope to soon introduce a Sunday brunch tour. RoanokeFoodTours.com.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks, Larry. It was great to see you.
Thank you, Margaret-Hunter.
You can find out more about the Roanoke Food Tours and other events happening in the Roanoke Valley on the community calendar coming up at the break. I'm Margaret-Hunter Wade, and you're watching Round Roanoke on Cox 9. Thanks for tuning in.